Saturday Social, brought to you by EA Sports FC with PlayStation 5.
As you can see, the Saturday Social whiteboard is out, Joe. There it is. The transfer window slammed shut last night.
Busy day, wasn't it?
We were busy prepping quite late because it was last night. So we're going to do the traditional Saturday Social theme that we do after deadline day and get our guests to rank every single Premier League club's transfer window. The rules are simple. You've got 5 letters from A to E. We've got all 20 Premier League clubs' magnets in front of Robbie there. You're going to have to put them on the board, A being the best, E being the worst, based on their transfer activity. Any rules for this one, Jim?
I think you should have to have a magnet in each category. Like, I don't want to see 20 in C, really. And
we don't like them and sit on the fence.
And at the end of it, I think we should decide who's had the best and who's had the worst.
Yeah. Should we say as well, I suppose they can move it if...
You can move it as it goes. You can adapt. But let's start with Arsenal, shall we, Robbie? Because you're in the hot seat.
Where you got them?
You've got to agree on it as well, where you place them in.
Do you know what, right? I would have had... It's a real weird one for me because at first I'd say A. Because, you know, beating Man City to getting Declan Rice, I think Declan Rice was the big signing of the summer, right? And Arsenal pulled it off and got Declan Rice and spent a lot of money in doing it. Yuri and Timber was an unbelievable signing. We brought in Havertz. All right, I know it's divided opinion amongst fans, but 3 big signings and Raya as well, another quality player. And we did it all early, so we weren't having to scramble around. Because that's an important thing in transfers.
It definitely is.
It's about getting those signings in early, getting them a full pre-season. So all of that was perfect. But with the injury to Timber, and I was very surprised yesterday that Arsenal didn't bring in some cover for Timber. But
in fact, you let Rob Holding go.
Yeah. I'm still going to put Arsenal in A category.
You agree?
Because also...
You don't agree?
I don't agree.
The other thing I would say as well, they got rid of a lot of players that they needed to get off their books. So...
Why do you not agree?
I think the Timber one is major. I think if Timber was there, then I agree it's an A signing because the way he looked in pre-season and the Community Shield against City, it looked like I would have loved him at United. Honestly, you think of him at right back, he's a brilliant player, but him going down for what looks like the whole season is a massive blow. And I think you look at Kai Havertz, and I'm not going to be someone who just writes him off because we have to see how he grows into this team. But it is a gamble. 1,000% it's a gamble, and I think that's the difference between it being an A summer or a C, how he pans out.
Where do you put Arsenal then on the board?
I put them at B.
B? Robbie, you happy to go with B? We can always move it later on, don't forget, or you stick with A.
I think how many teams have had better summers than
all right, I'm sorry?
What?
I'm more on Robbie's side.
Because the thing is about it, I look at these transfer windows, right?
Yeah.
I've been through this a lot where Arsenal are scrambling around on deadline day, and that's never good business. Organised, good business, it's all done early, and they did do that. It's just that they've had a setback with the Timber thing. But it could be that also that they looked on it and said, well, listen, we're not going to get any and anybody. We'll wait until January.
Let me ask you this. Last season, such a big part of Arsenal collapsing, people will point at the Saliba injury. And you needed defensive cover there. And I think Timber was kind of that guy. If Saliba goes down, OK, you can put Ben White there. You can put Tomiyasu there. So now you've loaned out Holding, who's not going to be there.
Sold, I think.
Sold, excuse me. Tierney has been loaned out, excuse me. Tomiyasu, we know, is injury-prone. So really, you look at the defensive situation at Arsenal, it's potentially looking worse than it was a year ago. So in that case, I think you needed defensive cover to replace Timber. So for me, it's a B.
All right, for now, I think I'm going to, for now, put it in a B.
That's fine.
We can always adapt. We can always adapt and shift. Another side who I think have had a really good window, Aston Villa.
Top.
Up next.
I go A.
What, you say A?
I go A. I think they've made some brilliant signings. I think Moussa Diaby is a top player that I think a lot of the big teams really will look at and probably think to themselves, should we have taken a gamble on him? I think he's one of the best wingers in the league already. And then you look at defensive cover that they've signed as well, too. Pau Torres was linked to United a few years ago. I think he's a brilliant player. Clement Longley on loan, and Tielemans. So I think really they've strengthened the team that was already pretty strong last season. I think they've done really good business.
I think they've done good business as well. You know what I mean? I agree, Moussa Diaby. I was surprised that other teams didn't go in for him. They've spent a lot of money as well, and they've definitely strengthened their team. So I'll put them in an A.
Both agree on A. OK. Let's go to Bournemouth, another club that were quite busy this window. We saw the likes of Cliver. Alex Scott, I think, is a really top signing. They brought in Tyler Adams, Max Aarons. Done a lot of business. But did they need to do a lot of business?
I think they did need to do a lot of business because, remember, they were struggling to stay in the league last year. And I think they've done very good business as well. I think this is another club that showed a lot of ambition. They spent a lot of money for Bournemouth. You know what I mean? These are some big signings. And I put them in a B. I think they've done well.
I agree. I think the new manager, Iraola, he wants to come in, implement a new style. He wants to make Bournemouth beautiful on the eye. And I think he's made some really good young signings. I'd put him in B as well.
OK.
Brentford. Up next, the return of Neil Maupay yesterday.
Yeah. I thought they were going to bring back Ben Rama, bring the whole gang together, but not quite. It's a weird one. Is there enough cover there while Ivan Toney is out till January? I think that's the main one for me. Kevin Shade, is that a signing that they made this window?
Yeah, they made that permanent.
21 million.
Yeah, I think that's some good business right there too. I'd probably put them at a B, C or a B. I think they've done okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, they haven't done loads of big business, but again, it's intelligent. The Maupay one surprised me, though. I was like, why?
It was very, very effective under
it was effective for
Thomas
Frank.
Frank knows him, yeah.
Yeah, somebody knows well.
Well,
To be fair, yeah, I say they haven't done
You're
cover
not
up
having that
front.
one,
They actually kind of have put a stopgap up front until their guy comes back. So
yeah, but
decent.
You're not having that transfer.
So where would you have him? More like a C or a D?
I'm gonna put them in a C.
They
didn't do a lot. They didn't really need to do a lot because I think Mbuemo and how well they've done, and
Vista
Wissa
as well.
Yeah,
All right.
really missed.
That's
We'll put them in C.
Yeah.
Next time, this is an interesting one. Brighton. Lots of incomings, lots of out, because they've obviously lost the likes of Robert Sanchez, Moises Caicedo for 115 million. That one, of course, Alexis McAllister. So big players out, but they've got Ansu Fati in on a loan, João Pedro, Mahmoud Dahoud, James Milner. So a lot going on at Brighton.
Yeah.
Where do you place them for this window?
I put them at a B, to be honest with you. I think they've done brilliantly well to get that much money for two players in McAllister and Caicedo that they really didn't spend much on at all. I mean, to get, $4 million I think they bought Caicedo for a few seasons ago, and to flip it for that much is ridiculous.
In a short space of time as well.
Yeah, honestly. And I think you look at João Pedro, you look at Ansu Fati, those two players of that caliber playing for Brighton, who already have a really top team too. And I trust, here's the thing with Brighton, right? There's some clubs that you just trust their recruitment.
Yeah.
They're the signings that you make, you almost have to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I give them a B.
For me, transfers and Brighton equals A.
Yeah.
Like the way they do business, it's not just about the players you bring in, it's about how you sell on players. What the amount of money they made on Caicedo, the way they played that. Remember, they kept him in January, so they said no when they could have got big money for him. And then they played off Liverpool
brilliant.
and Chelsea
right.
against each
You're
other.
right.
Listen, man, they're A+.
I actually can hear that. I think they can go A.
Brilliant business.
Hey, they do always get it right, don't they?
Let's go on to Burnley then, who, were very close with Ian Maatsen yesterday, but couldn't get that over the line. It was a lot of money, £31 million, by the way. Where do we put Burnley?
I'd go C, to be honest with you. I think there's three players that they were really looking to bring back, Maatsen being one of them, and it looked like they were so close. And I think left back was the one position Burnley really needed. So I think failure to bring back Maatsen's a big one. They were looking to bring the guy from City who ended up going to Southampton that they had last season as well, too. I'd go for a C for Burnley.
I'd agree with that.
OK, we'll put that. Now, we need a bit of time on this one. I've got to be brutally honest. Joe and I haven't even put all the transfers on our iPad because there's too many to talk about. It is, of course, Chelsea, who, I mean, millions and millions spent.
This should be in gold.
I believe that they've spent more in this one window that Poch has been there than Pochettino had in 11 windows at Tottenham. Obviously, over £1 billion spent in the Todd Boehly era. They were still busy yesterday as well with the likes of Cole Palmer coming through. So many incomings, so many outgoings. What do you make of Chelsea and where do you put them on the board, Robbie?
It's crazy what's going on there, I think where they did well is the players they got rid of. They got 65 million off of us for Havertz, 60 million off of you guys for Mason Mount, and they got rid of a whole host of players. I think we've got to remember that they've made good money and have really cleared the decks. They use some real smart moves to manoeuvre certain players, Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. I won't say no more, but I'm questioning some of these moves. But then they've spent loads. I looked at it yesterday, £1 billion spent. I looked at all the players that come in since Todd Boehly's in charge. And I'm like, am I scared of any of those names? Maybe Raheem Sterling.
Raheem Sterling is the only name in the Chelsea squad you're scared of.
Nkunku, when I say scared of, when I'm saying scared of, right, I'm saying when I look at Chelsea teams in the past and you think Hazard and these sort of names, I don't see that in that $1 billion spent. It's a bit underwhelming for me.
I agree with what you're saying. Like, I look at £800 million spent. I'm not going to include the whatever they spent in the summer before, because I think that was different people really taking care of those deals. And I look at £800 million. Is this squad that they've assembled from that money value for money? I don't think this is a squad worth £800 million, like on surface level. And I don't think, like, when you spend that kind of money in such a short amount of time, I should be able to look at the squad, in my opinion, and say, are they ready to challenge for the league?
Yeah.
I don't think any of us here would say Chelsea today already. Now, the one thing I'll give them is they've signed really young players, and I think they've signed players with potentially really high ceilings.
And Pochettino likes that, doesn't he? He's very good at developing young players. 100%. That is a skill set that he has.
So when you say I'm not really scared of anyone, I think right now you might not be. But I think in a few years, a few of these players have the potential to be really.
So where would you put them on this window then?
Yeah.
I think it's hard not to give them an A because then you bring up again the fact that they've offloaded so many players. Like
Not an A.
it's a new team.
Robbie is shaking his head in disagreement.
Not an A. I'll put them in a B. I mean, the way what they did to Liverpool, mate. They just said, I see though, right? And they still got him. And then they said, when Liverpool was saying, all right, we're going to go in for Lavia, and actually we're having him too. Okay. I mean,
are we taking value for money into account there? Because obviously you've alluded to the fact that they may have overspent on some.
I think they've overspent. I think they've got a load of. It looks Chelsea to me, and I know Chelsea fans will get at me. It's like a property developer buying loads of properties to
flip them up for profit.
I look on it, it's like they're buying all these players to sell them on later to make more money. It's like a business deal. Whereas I, as a fan, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, right, I want to see players that are going to be here for the long term. And
but they
let's get out.
I'll give them a B.
B.
I think Chelsea fans at home stewing about that one. Twitter's going wild. OK, let's go to Crystal Palace, though. Dean Henderson bought in yesterday on deadline day.
This is C potentially.
Obviously lost Wilfried Zaha as well. Factor that in, big player.
But you have
they kept Olise.
I was going to say they kept Olise, Eze, and Doucouré. So I think they deserve massive credit there. But it's just for me uninspiring business. I think Henderson, good goalkeeper to rival Sam Johnston. Holding, give them some depth at a position where they really do have two strong centre backs. This might be a D for me, honestly. It's a bit underwhelming for me.
I think I'll give them a C. They haven't really strengthened enough, but they did well in keeping Eze and keeping Olise.
Yeah, fairs.
Yeah, but losing Zaha's massive for them.
C-.
Yeah. OK, next up, a lot of people have been talking about this club, Everton. So they've brought in Ashley Young on a free, Dan Juma's a loan. Beto, who did score midweek, to be fair to him, Jack Harrison on a loan. But they have lost Moise Keane, they have lost Tom Davis, Mason Holgate, Andros Townsend released. Obviously, Iwobi went as well, which I think surprised a few.
That's strange.
This is an E, man. Slap them at E.
I think so.
Straight away, you said
bottom of this table, bottom of the Premier League. Get them an E, man. Get them out of here. I'm tired of Everton.
The worst window of any club for you?
It's up there, or down there, I guess. It's definitely down there.
I have to agree, man. I mean, I was shocked that they sold Iwobi. And when I was watching him games last year, he was their best player.
Yeah.
How have they sold him? And they've sold him for less than what they paid for him. That made no sense to me. I would say one thing, that Beto, I was watching him in the other night game. He impressed me. I know it's Doncaster they were playing, but no disrespect to them. But
that's their level, honestly.
He impressed me. Maybe he could bring some goals to the team, but yeah, I think I got to.
Look, I love Ashley Young, great servant to United over the years. But if 36, 37-year-old Ashley Young is one of your big signings for the summer, I think you're in trouble.
Yeah. Next up,
Fulham.
Now, João Palhinha deal collapsed in the end, didn't it? He'd done his media duties, he reportedly done his medical.
Yeah.
So sad days for João Palhinha potentially at one of the biggest clubs in world football.
And they lost Mitrovic as well, didn't they?
But for Fulham, it's like to keep Palhinha.
Massive.
And bring in Iwobi.
But
yeah, Raul Jimenez as well, Adama Traore.
Yeah.
This is, again, for me, I might even give them a D again. I think people underestimate how good and how important Mitrovic was for them last season. Like, even when they were flying.
Keeping Palhinha, though, that's not...
Yeah, it's good. That, for me, if they lost Palhinha, it's an E. But I think keeping him preserves the window a little bit, because losing Mitrovic, even last season when they were so good, they were in such great form, if you looked at the underlying numbers and all of that stuff, they were massively exceeding expected goals.
Yeah.
It was because everything he touched was goals.
Yeah.
So I think losing him and replacing him with Raul Jimenez, who really hasn't been the same for a few years now, I think that's a big loss. And I think you're relying on a lot of guys like Adama Traore, Raul Jimenez. Are they really reliable for you at this level?
I think with Raul Jimenez, you have to factor in that horrific injury as well.
Of course.
I was massive. I am still a big fan of his before that. It was obviously horrible what we saw, and I think, you know, we all hope that he comes back to his best following that, obviously.
It's a D for me as well.
Okay, let's get it out. Let's get it on.
The Paulinho thing is by default. It's not because of they...
By default. See, we've done that. Right, next up, Liverpool. Right, again, a club a lot of people didn't like it as much as him, fair enough. A lot of people talking about Liverpool. McAllister, Szoboszlai, Endo, Gravenberch, but they did miss out on a few big targets. Big thing with Liverpool as well, obviously, one of the biggest stories yesterday was the Mo Salah situation. That's worth pointing out. The Saudi Pro League is still open for another week. So I imagine that would massively affect where you put Liverpool. But what have you made of their window?
You know what? It started off, I think, very badly for Liverpool. You know what I mean? Missing out on targets, you know, like players that were linked with them, you know, like Lavia, they missed out on, like Caicedo, they lost Henderson. I mean, it was looking a bit, but I thought they recovered it well. I thought they recovered it back well. Like you said, if they lose Salah, then it drops down. But I think I'm going to give them a B, because I think it was...
What do you think Liverpool should do?
They brought in some good players.
What do you think Liverpool should do with regards to the Mo Salah situation?
200 million comes in.
If 200 million comes in?
If I was a Liverpool fan, even at 200 million, I wouldn't want to sell him. I'd be like, I think those Saudi teams will still come for Mo Salah next year because he's a big player in that. You know, obviously he's from Egypt, big player in that part of the world, right? He's still going to have a very high stock. You may not get 200 million for him, but if he has a great season, I still think those Saudi teams will come in for him. So I'd keep him, man. And you can't replace him now.
Yeah.
So he's too important to let go for me.
All right. Where are you putting Liverpool then? Did you say?
I'll put him as a B.
B?
I got
Okay.
him at C, to be honest with you. I can't lie, I disagreed with you there, Robbie. I think that the failure to get a defensive midfielder and how bad the fiasco
They got
was...
Endo, didn't they?
Come on, Endo. That's like when... I'm trying to think... That's when you guys signed Kim Källström. Like, come on, we're talking about, like, players that really aren't going to make that much of an... We saw
I'm saying they recovered it back because even yesterday they got Gravenberch. You know what I mean?
Gravenberch for me ain't moving me. Gravenberch, I think they already have enough quality there in terms of those 2-8s. They needed somebody to be the rock in midfield. And you look, they wanted Doucouré, they wanted Lavia, they wanted Caicedo. I think failure to get them puts them at a C for me.
Need a decision here. Robbie?
B, I'm still on a B.
You can put him B.
Well, Robbie, you take this one, B.
Yeah, you go B.
And if there's disagreement in the next one, Lias takes the next one.
OK, get on
Go on,
B
Robbie.
for now. And let's go to Luton Town, who, you know... Let's just give some respect to their recruitment team first and foremost, because this recruitment team's taking them from, you know, the conference to the Premier League.
Yeah,
so I think we
agreed.
should have some trust in some of the names that have signed that are maybe a little bit more
And
on
also
the unknown
operating under
style.
different budgets, we have to respect that.
Exactly. So where do we think Luton go?
It's an E for me. They have not brought in the players to survive, have they?
Me and Joe try to stick up.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, and
Can they? Is it
Yeah,
possible
thank you.
for Luton to
you've
do that?
obviously got
Conga on loan?
You've obviously got to, that's a decent sign. You've obviously got to respect their position financially, but then we've seen other teams come up, like, you know, your Bournemouths and you know, your Brentfords and people like that, and establish themselves into, you know, Premier League teams. I know their budget's low, but have they brought in players to survive, or have they brought in players to prepare for life?
What do you think, Lias?
Look, I hear what you're saying, but I'm kind of with Joe here. Like, they can only really work what's in front of them. I mean, they brought in Ross Barkley, they brought in Tahith Chong, they brought in Lokonga, they brought in some decent...
Is that going to keep them in the Premier League?
I mean, maybe not, but I don't think that's really their fault, really. I think they did the best that they could. I think it could have been a lot worse for Luton, to be honest.
I don't know. I think...
So you're saying A, you're saying what, D?
Yeah, D.
You said we were going to give Lias
We'll give Lias this one.
I'm not too passionate on this one. Maybe I'm trying to give him the benefit.
You go D. Robbie, you put on D then, because we said Lias would have this one because you had the last one. We go to a team with smaller budgets to a team with much bigger budgets in Manchester City. Busy incomings and outgoings. If you think of the likes of Cole Palmer, I was surprised at that one. They obviously lost Mahrez, Gundogan, Laporte as well. But they have brought in Kovacic, Gvardiol, Doku, Nunez. Where would you put Man City?
A. Honestly, I think Manchester City, I was looking at them in the beginning of the summer, losing such big players for them over the course of this Pep Guardiola era. Like, Gundogan has been massive. Mahrez has been massive for them. Laporte, losing those kinds of players, it's never easy replacing them. But I actually think City have done exceptionally well to replace them. You're never going to replace, for example, Gundogan in terms of like-for-like immediate quality. But to replace him with Mateus Nunes and Kovacic, I think it's decent business. I think Doku is not as established as Mahrez, but he gives them a completely different element, kind of similar to what you got with Sané and Sterling, dynamic, exciting wingers. And I think Gvardiol is really one of the best young centre-backs on the planet. I think they've really done some exceptional business here. And before these recent signings that they made, I actually had Arsenal winning the league. I think these signings that they've made under Pep's coaching could propel them to go forward.
And so many massive sales, it feels like they're almost at like a net break even. Like, there's not a huge outlay there when you're considering 20 million going out the door for Trafford, 45 for Cole Palmer.
Gvardiol, great signing. The other two, we're going to have to wait and see, I think. You know what I mean? But you're right. They've covered the areas where they've lost players, and that's what you've got to do, which they've done. I was really surprised by the Cole Palmer one. I mean, you know, I want to see some of these teams.
I agree.
You know, when you've got players come through the academy, bring him in. You know what I mean? Why have they gone to Chelsea? I put it in then. You know, but I think it's got to be an A. They have covered off.
You agree with that? We've got a few more clubs to go. So
Let's rattle through a few of these. Manchester United. Yes, come to you.
Man United fan.
It's tough, man. Honestly, I'm in between B and C, to be honest with you. Look, I think United have...
Robbie's put it straight.
I think, look, they've definitely improved in certain positions massively, in my opinion. Like, Onana, in my opinion, is a big upgrade on De Gea. I think Mount is a big upgrade on Eriksen. I think Højlund, by default, should be a big upgrade on Weghorst and Martial. But I just don't know. Similar to Chelsea, is there enough of an upgrade for the amount of money that you've spent? Like, how much better are United compared to last season after this much money? And that's why, if there was a C+, B-, I might put
B or
them
C
there.
for you. Robbie, where'd you put them?
I think you've got to take into account outgoings as well with Man United.
But I think that's a problem.
Poor.
Poor.
Again,
I think it's been quite a
department.
disorganised window. Again, good windows when it's organised, get your targets.
It's tough with the ownership,
It
though,
seems
honestly.
disorganised, you know what I mean? It's seen a bit scattergun. Like you said, Maguire's still there. McTominay, players that they wanted gone, let's be real, that are still there.
Van de Beek,
I think even though they've brought in some quality, I see.
OK, next up, Newcastle.
Ooh, I think they've done well.
I think they've done really well.
Tonali, Barnes, Livramento, Hall.
I think that's potentially A.
That's an A.
Yeah.
Oh, straight away.
I think they could have done. They could have done with I think they could have done with a right winger, but I think that's a top window.
Barnes can float across, and Anthony Gordon feels like a new signing potentially as well.
Yeah.
So
And they got them all in early as well. Again, another organised transfer window.
Forest.
A.
Nah,
I think it's an A, man. Honestly, some of the signings that they're making... OK, maybe it's a bit of deja vu from last summer.
It's the same as last year, all these running around, signing there.
You don't rate it.
No cohesion.
A lot of deadline day deals.
Yeah, 6, I think, right?
Lost Brennan Johnson.
Brennan Johnson, one of their guys, you know what I mean? I don't think it's been a great...
I think they've done good business. I think Elanga will actually do quite well there. I think they brought in Sangare, who was really looked at by quite a big European...
They brought in some good quality players, but why did they let Brennan Johnson go?
50 million for Brennan Johnson. You're saying no to that? I'm fighting your
Callum Hudson-Odoi to Elanga.
Yeah.
Meet me halfway.
You're saying C, and you're saying A. Do we meet in the middle?
Yeah, meet me halfway there.
All right, go on then. I can't reach that far now.
OK, next up, Sheffield United. Obviously, some big players leaving, Ilman and Dye, notably, Ender Stevens, Sander Berge. Yeah, Sander Berge. Yeah. Have put in Gustavo Hamer, of course. They have made
Cameron
signings,
Archer. I think Cameron Archer's a really exciting
they need signings, but I think losing those two of their best players last season, that's never a good sign for a promoted team.
Okay,
It's got to be an E for me.
OK, next up.
Not done enough.
Tottenham Hotspur. I'm going to come to Lias for this one because we know Robbie's incredibly biased when it comes to Spurs.
If they had F, you would put them there.
Yeah, so neutral perspective. Obviously, brought in Brennan Johnson. Mickey van der Ven looks good as well.
James Maddison, of course.
Yeah, Maddison's been brilliant. Where do you place Tottenham? But of course, they have lost arguably one of the greatest players to ever pull on a Spurs shirt, and Harry Kane.
Of course. That's guaranteed 30 goals. I put them at a B. I think if they had managed to kind of bring in... Obviously, replacing Kane like for like is near impossible. But I think the biggest signing really for them is Ange. I think he's the one that's really going to elevate the ceiling of this team. But I think signings, they've made some great signings. I like what they've done. I put them at B.
I'd actually agree with that. I mean, I think they've made some good signings. I mean, I think Maddison's a really... For 40 million.
Yeah,
that's got to be one of the bargains.
That's
that is, man. That's a good signing. That Van der Ven looks all right. You know what I mean? They made some good signings.
Mario as well, too.
But they have lost big players. They've lost Harry Kane, and then they didn't get rid of players like Dyer and people like that. They've got a lot of players in Dombele. They're all still there. So...
Okay, let's get it up.
Yeah. Well done, Robbie. Getting better with more on it. I like that. Well done.
West Ham.
I'd like being nice.
Give West Ham an A.
Begrudgingly put
Get West Ham A.
Yeah, A.
After losing Declan Rice.
I think they've done exceptionally well
I'm going to agree with that as well.
I think they've done really, really well. And I know it's early days, but I think they've done really, really well to replace him.
They've lost Declan Rice.
And Skamaka. So if Antonio gets injured, who plays up front?
That's the one thing for me. They were linked to end the series for almost the entire window, and I think he would have been brilliant for them. That might put them down to a B, because I think they need another striker.
But they have brought in some good players. Kudos can score goals as well.
Top signing.
You know what I mean? I think they've used the Declan Rice money well.
And
there was a bit of panic stations with West Ham fans at first. But I think they'd all be happy with the sign.
I'm sticking with A, man. I'm sticking with A.
The Lightfield signings, I'd agree, but just if Antonio gets injured, who plays up front for them?
Bowen spent some time. I'm reaching for straws here. I agree.
A for me.
Okay. I'll go A.
Okay. Good value for money, I will say as well. It's an average 35.4 million. Ward-Prowse is 30. Kudos 38. Finally, Wolves. Lias, where would you put Wolves in there?
I'm tempted E as well. I think losing Ruben Neves and Mateus Nunes and João Moutinho, that's 3 senior midfielders that they had. A lot of quality there.
As well.
Yeah, and I don't think they've replaced well enough this window. I'm going E.
Okay.
There we go.
Well.
And just finally, very quickly, which one team has had the best window from that A? Lias, need to know.
I might say City.
Man City for you, Robbie?
I think I might go Brighton, just because...
Brighton, okay.
Because with the players they've let go as well, and there's no drop-off.
The recruitment.
Right, and their recruitment and the way they just buy and sell players has been brilliant. Because it's not just about buying, it's about the players you get rid of as well. And pulling off Ansu Fati. Brighton.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
It's a great window.